you're actually singing the song really, really well. And I love that thing about the phone screens have gone off because they've gone. Ooh. And it's a magical moment. It's magical when anyone does it, and it's especially magic when you pull it off, isn't it? It's just anyway. We're live. We've been live for a bit, and I hope people can hear us. And if they can't, I'm sure they'll say rude words in the chat at some point. Yep, Rafe's here, saying hello, Bill and Brenda. Yeah, the usual filthy suspects already in the chat. So, for those who don't know them, my guests tonight are Bill and Brenda Sutton, who are Irish musicians and filkers from... are you actually from Indiana originally? Yeah. You've been there at some point, yeah. So yeah, but you're now settled in Indiana, and yeah. And Marion says hello. She's just dealing with her headphones. Yeah. So how are you finding how's winter for you? Has it got going yet? Mm-hmm. As bad as, oh God, what was that? What was that thing that did the Irish, romantic Irish thing that went viral, mostly with comments from the Irish, actual Irish people. Now they can't hear you, Brenda. Well, Rafe can't. Apparently not. Quacking. I'm okay. Brenda's, oh God, Yeah. Can you hear Bill as well? Alien sound, oh joy. Oh bliss, oh poop. Yeah, it's a thing at my end. Yeah. Yeah. Oh right, hang on a minute. I can route the audio in a different direction, but bear with me a second. Yeah, see the product. Oh God. Oh no. Hold on a moment. So, yeah. Right, so, right, now, if you could try talking and let's see if we can hear you better.
So, this is me, and do I have a voice? And can you hear me, Rafe? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me, Mother?
Can what? Anybody hear anybody? You should be able. We're both on the same mic.
Yeah. No. It's the issue is I've got a dodgy cable basically.
Oh my!
Now they can hear words. That's good. What they can't hear is Damn you, come here. Where's the mouse gone? There you are.
They can't hear is the dog.
Yeah, I just need to turn the compressor on for you guys.
Hear all our lovely traffic noise. We live on a main street, and there's a lot of rumbling, and it's the main.
We should be fine because the microphone's fighting away. So
Oh well, it's the main pathway for the emergency vehicles to go by as well. So every now and then you might hear some screaming sirens go running past us.
Yeah. Hopefully they're a bit louder now as well, chaps.
Are we?
So, are we louder? Are we
Australia.
overpowering?
Hurrah!
Yay! They can hear us on
Just joy, Kalukale.
They can hear us in Australia, but we're upside down.
Yeah. As is traditional. They probably can't see me because I think I've just, I got half my face because I've moved to get nearer to something and
I thought you were going to say they can't see you because you're invisible in Australia.
Yes, I'm invisible in Australia. That's exactly what it is. So, there is the traditional question that I always ask a new guest and new guests on this show, and sometimes Phil gets like, who? But if you would, so I always ask people about their first, because it's in the UK folk scene, it's really almost impossible not to have come across Martin Carthy, and people have all sorts of reactions to the first time they encountered him, or either on record or in person. So, have you heard of him?
Oh yes,
yes.
That's
the first time I heard of him was when I was playing with a very short-lived filk group in Los Angeles called the Fuddruckers. Can't remember the Fudds.
The Fudds.
The Fuddruckers. And they handed me a tape called Feed the Folk. And Martin Carthy had a little clip on there called Old Horse. And I just fell in love with that song.
And that's such a filkable song as well, isn't it?
It is. It could go any number of places.
Well, shanties are there to be improvised around, I think. That's my, this is my theory. It is my own. I'm just moving you a bit to the right. So, yes, and so how about you, Bill? Were you encountered him at the same time, or?
I think when we got together, she had that album. I had not had a lot of experience with English folk music, but we did pick up, years ago, we picked up Rigs of the Time, which is the album that we tend to listen to things off of a lot.
Yeah.
And so I am really familiar with it, but Old Horse we've actually picked up and we're doing in the new band that we're working with, because it fits in really well as something that sort of crosses over between the recreation community and folk community, and it doesn't poke anybody out of their sense of whatever year they want it to be. So we picked that one up. And then of course the whole relatives around Martin Carthy. You can't help, even if you don't know the more modern folk scene, as soon as you start having Les Barker and his music that's been done with the Mrs. Ackroyd Band, you start getting some of the really famous folk scene musicians who are just like, I've got to sing this song that Les did to my music.
Yes, I mean, Martin's version of the hard cheese of Old England is a thing of beauty and a joy forever. I'm just going to tell you who else has popped up in the chat. Welcome to Simon Fairbairn, Kate Barton, Zap Esler, Esther.
Zap Esler. She's from our neck of the woods.
Yeah, Chastity from Canberra. I always want to say Melbourne, but I'm wrong. The lovely Rich Hewitt.
Yay!
And Rafe Culpin, walking through a tube station, I realised the bloke coming to the other way carrying two guitars was in fact Martin Carthy. And Vicky Fielden, who is an American singer now based in Sheffield, and I can never remember which part of America she's from. But
what was the name again? I couldn't hear it.
Vicky Fielden. or would have been Vicky Appleton that came over here and married
Okay.
Lexi is here with Rick as well. So that's who we've got so far.
Yay! It's Old Home Week. We miss you guys. We miss you guys a lot. But we're heading your way.
You're coming over unless Omicron gets even worse than you feared.
The borders close down. We've already bought the tickets. We're heading that direction in February.
We're boosted. We have our mutations. We're good.
Cool.
We have our superpowers.
Because
they may meet us at the gate and say, "Here, you have to go to this hotel and stay in a hotel for."
Well, if they do that, then we probably wouldn't come because it doesn't make much sense to come for a few weeks and then have to spend one of those weeks isolated somewhere. So that'd be the thing if they start implementing self-isolation requirements. That'd be the kind of thing that'd change the trip. But
and we're bringing a friend with us,
by the way.
Excellent.
Yes, because for the non-Filk people in the audience, the first weekend in February is when the UK Filk Convention happens. And Bill and Brenda have been such regulars at it that they have, on one occasion, been the organisers of it. Yes, from the other side of the pond, which
1812 Cone, yes.
That was my first UK Filk Con after we went at that World Con in Glasgow. It was, I had no idea what I was letting myself in for.
Nobody does.
Folk Nan here from Bourne in Lincolnshire. Who I probably know, but don't remember the name because I'm terrible at remembering names.
Well, they're from Lincolnshire. Maybe they know Annie.
Quite possibly, yes. Bill and Brenda are from, Bill's from Indiana, and they're living in Indiana now. Whereabouts are you from originally, Brenda?
I was born on the top floor of the First National Bank in Glenwood Springs, Colorado. It was at the time a hospital, but now it's a bank, so I get to say that. My dad was in the Navy, so by the time I was 18, I'd lived in 18 different towns, and I'd lived in 3 of them twice. So we moved around a lot. I consider Whidbey Island, Washington, my home because we did 3 tours in Whidbey. And other than that, I got used to putting everything I owned in the box and leaving every year or so.
Isn't Colorado a landlocked state?
It is, but that's where my folks were from. They were in Colorado. He was a submariner in the Korean War. He got out and then used the GI Bill to go back to school and come back as an officer, and then started shipping us everywhere. So.
Was he submariner for the rest of his life?
No. Although those were the romantic days that he remembers. When he gets dressed up and goes meets his Navy buddies, he dresses up in his jeans and his blue shirt and his little white hat. And but he was an officer who ended up flying jets during the Vietnam War.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, by God. So some fairly hot stuff.
Yep.
Wow. Oh, Lord.
He still flies. He's 92 years old, and he still flies.
I remember watching a documentary while there were still some of them alive, interviewing the pilots of the RAC, the Royal Air Corps, of the First World War, before the RAF was founded. And they were telling the stories of, dogfighting over the trenches and being absolutely ruthless about it. All the stuff about Knights of the Air, bollocks to that. No, that's not what went on. If you had a chance to shoot someone, you did, and all that kind of stuff. And they were scotching myths and stuff like that. And it was fascinating listening to them because these guys, that force had a life expectancy of something like 24 hours in the air. If they managed that, they were doing well. So the ones who survived. The question the interviewer asked all of them, after all this stuff had been, basically was asked them what flying was like. And to a man, they just went misty-eyed and were like, it was amazing. After all this fairly, talking about some fairly gruesome stuff, they got about as poetic as it's possible for a person to get, really, about it. It was lovely to see. You could see the faraway look and the, God, I wish I was in a plane right now sort of thing.
Yeah.
It was there with them.
Dad had a little Piper Cub airplane, and he would take us, each one of us got to spend some time with Dad in the plane, and he would take us up, and then we would drive the plane around in the sky, and then we'd come down, and he taught us how to do touch and goes.
Yeah.
Now, he was always millimeters away from the control. His feet were controlling everything, and his hands were right there so he could grab it if he needed to. But no one would be allowed to do this sort of thing today. But it was a different generation then. We rode in the back of pickup trucks. We didn't have seatbelts. So, sure, I can drive. I can fly a plane.
Well, I mean, no problem. The basics of actually flying a plane once it's in the air is not actually that complicated, really, is it? In clear sky, all that, you know. Vicky wonders if you know someone called Mew.
Marion Wessels.
Yes.
Yes.
She was at our wedding. She was in my wedding party, and I didn't know her then. Bill Roper was his best man, and everyone in the wedding was required to sing something, and so Bill roped Marion Wessels into singing along in our wedding. And so we marched down the aisle, and there's this woman that I don't know in my wedding. But then I didn't know hardly anybody in my wedding anyway.
So did Bill introduce you to Filk?
No, we didn't know at the time when we started talking to each other on the CompuServe Thursday night Science Fiction and Fantasy Forum. We talked for months and months and months on that chat line, and didn't at any time tell each other that we were Filkers, and didn't tell each other that we were both going to the same Filk Convention in the Bay Area, and then met at that convention when Larry Niven there was a game that Misty Lackey used to play called Make Larry Cry, because Larry's a pushover. He's a sweet fellow, but he's got the inside of a marshmallow, and it's really easy to make him cry. And she wanted Bill to sing a song, Pilot's Eyes, to him, because she was absolutely sure this would make Larry cry. And Bill sang the song, and Larry didn't cry. Larry got up and left the room and came out in the hall where I was sitting and singing with a few people on the floor, and sat down. And Bill followed him out there to find out why Larry didn't cry. And we spent the evening talking to each other until I got up to go to bed, because it was my very first Filk Con, and I didn't know that the music started at 11 o'clock. It was past my bedtime. I said, I'm going to my room now, and he walked me to the hotel room and carried my guitar and said goodbye at the door, and that was the beginning of everything.
Oh.
Yes, I mean, that's when it was not popular.
I mean, to a certain extent, Filk is kind of the fandom that dare not speak its name, isn't it? I mean, we get to look down on furries, but certainly I've got friends who consider themselves to be serious science fiction fans, and they are very snotty about Filk. It's just like, are you allergic to having fun?
Well, and it's evolved over the years, because when it first started, it was all parodies. It was, Isaac Asimov writing silly stuff, and, different authors actually doing things.
Yeah, who wants to be
and
with
that's
Isaac
still
Asimov?
what it's considered to be in the Society for Creative Anachronism. If you use the word Filk, you mean parodies. And usually you mean bad parodies. That are trying to be funny and sometimes manage to be. But Filk really grew up in the 70s to become quite an original...
Hello. Sorry. 10 minutes, right?
That's okay.
Bye. Sorry, Jill's finishing her dialysis far earlier than I expected.
Oh, excellent. Good. Then we get to see her and the kitties.
I'm going to sing the opening song.
Okay.
Because we've gone 20 minutes without saying a thing. Gary Ehrlich is in the audience as well, and Vicky Furman went to the same university as me.
There we go.
Yeah. So I suppose I'd better sing a damn song. And I always start with the same one on these song swaps, and I've completely forgotten what it is. Come one and all, let us be jolly, drive away old melancholy, for to grieve it is a folly. When we're met together, let union be in all our hearts. Let all our hearts be joined as one, we'll end the day as we begun. We'll end it all in pleasure. Rack falla runner roll to a lido, rack falla runner to a lido, rack falla runner to a lido. When we're met together, King Solomon in all his glory tells each wife a different story. In our cups we'll sing his glory. When we're met together, let union be in all our hearts. Let all our hearts be joined as one. We'll end the day as we've begun. We'll end it all in pleasure. Rock, roll, roll to the lido. Rock, roll, roll to the lido. Rock, roll, roll to the lido. When we're met together, eating and drinking, there's so charming, piping and smoking, there's no harm in all these things we'll take delight in. When we're met together, let union be in all our hearts. Let all our hearts be joined as one. We'll end the day as we've begun. We'll end it all in pleasure. Rock, roll to the lido. Rock, roll to the lido. Rock, roll to the lido. When we're met together, cease your quarreling and fighting, evil speaking and backbiting. All these things take no delight in. When we're met together, let union be in all our hearts. Let all our hearts be joined as one. We'll end the day as we've begun. We'll end it all in pleasure. Rock, roll to the lido. Rock, roll to the lido. Rock, roll to the lido. When we're met together, grab the bottle as it passes. Do not fail to fill your glasses. Water drinkers are excellent people. When we're met together, let union be in all our hearts. Let all our hearts be joined as one. We'll end the day as we've begun. We'll end it all in pleasure. Rock, roll to the lido. Rock, roll to the lido. Rock, roll to the lido. When we're met together, let union be in all our hearts. Let all our hearts be joined as one. We'll end the day as we've begun. We'll end it all in pleasure. Rock, roll to the lido. Rock, roll to the lido. Rock, roll to the lido. When we're met together.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Who was that chap singing along with you?
Oh, that
was just so amazing that you had a choir show up.
Yeah, there's a ghost in here. Right.
It had me worried. I was afraid our mic wasn't turned
No,
on.
I've got a slightly fancy Logic Pro set up, so that's what that is. So I'm going to put you on the main screen. I'm going to go and let Jill in. I can still hear you.
Excellent.
Yeah, and so that is that's the plan. So,
all right.
I think
you are muted right now.
Oh,
yep. Nope. There. Nope. All right. Excellent. This is one of the first traditional things that we sort of picked up and made our own arrangement of. We've combined a few versions of it. Where we've picked it up from place to place, we've made a change on our own, and that essentially became what it is. So.
Yeah, we changed the gender because in this particular song about
planting
and distilling and such, women were mostly the ones who did that brewing sort of thing and distilling thing.
Give us count. There were three maids come out of the west, their fortunes for to try. And these three maids took a solemn vow, John Barleycorn must die. They plowed, they sowed, they harrowed him in, threw clods upon his head. And these three maids took a solemn vow, John Barleycorn was dead. They left him lie for a very long time till the rain from heaven did fall, and little Sir John swung up his head, and so amazed them all. They left him stand till midsummer, till he looked both pale and wan, and little Sir John growed a very long beard, and so became a man. They hired men with his eyes so sharp to cut him at the knee. They rolled him, tied him about the waist, and served him for receipt. They hired men with the sharp tips, but she prick into the heart. And the lover he served him worse than that, for he's bound him to a cart. They wheeled him around and around the field till they came into a barn. And there they made a solemn oath of pork and barley corn. They hired men with a grease stick to cut him skin from bone. And the miller they served him worst of all, for he's drowned him between two stones. Here's little Sir John in a nut brown bowl and brandy in a glass. And little Sir John in a nut brown bowl proves the stronger man at the last. For the huntsman he can't hunt the fox, so loudly blow his horn. And the king he cannot hold his horse without some barley corn. And the king he cannot hold his horse without some barley corn. Yay! And we've cheated and done a very fast one, so that now I don't know if people are scrambling. Piers is running. He's going, oh no, I have to clear kitties. I have to get someone in the door.
I can sing something else while we're waiting.
We could.
Life is better with lots of...
Okay, we could do that. That one would follow. This one is normally a sing-along that we picked up from a late friend of ours, passed away a few years ago.
Ernest Clark.
And some of you may know some of Ernest's things, but we'll go there. So, whoops. I was going to do the note, but I'm capable. It's hard to do that.
It won't be the right note.
Let one thing be crystal clear.
Wait. What? Stay on the note. Let one thing be crystal clear. Life is better with lots of beer. Lift your glasses high and then drain them dry. Life is better with lots of beer.
I know you're singing along, so we'll do that again.
Let one thing be crystal clear. Life is better with lots of beer. Lift your glasses high and then drain them dry. Life is better with lots of beer.
In the prehistoric time, thirsty hunters said, covered in grime, let us settle down on this barley ground. Life is better with lots of beer. Let one thing be crystal clear. Life is better with lots of beer. Lift your glasses high and then drain them dry. Life is better with lots of beer.
In the hot Egyptian sun, do the labor that must be done. Build a pyramid for the lowest bid. Life is better with lots of beer. Let one thing be crystal clear. Life is better with lots of beer. Lift your glasses high and then drain them dry. Life is better with lots of beer.
In the foul medieval town, where the water will put you down, first you boil it, then let the mash begin. Life is better with lots of beer. Let one thing be crystal clear. Life is better with lots of beer. Lift your glasses high and then drain them dry. Life is better with lots of beer.
With their stern impassioned stress, settlers brave the wilderness. But when things annoy, bring the liquid joy. Life is better with lots of beer. Let one thing be crystal clear. Life is better with lots of beer. Lift your glasses high and then drain them dry. Life is better with lots of beer. In our friendly gathering here, bid adieu to care and fear. For the ages show what all here know. Life is better with lots of beer. Let one thing be crystal clear. Life is better with lots of beer. Lift your glasses high and then drain them dry. Life is better with lots of beer. Let one thing be crystal clear. Life is better with lots of beer. Lift your glasses high and then drain them dry. Life is better with lots of beer.
That's a great song. That was a better lick for John Barleycorn. That was grand.
Oh, everybody in and safe and kitties fed and lovable person, lovable.
Yeah, they're now ambling about the table, putting me in fear of God. So not in a place.
Cats do. One of ours will probably trounce across the top.
Yeah, so I'm just catching up with chat as well. Gary emceed one shots at my wedding. That sounds like fun. Chastity's only here for me, apparently. I think that's a bit rude.
Yeah.
And Rafe points out that the Kibber family did Joan Sugarbeat, which is a fine.
Okay.
Yeah, which is about the housewife can't drink her little cup of PG chips without a little bit of Joan Sugarbeat. Is the
I will have to look for that one.
I'm sure Rafe will probably send you a bibliographic reference to the correct Les Barker book in which to find it.
It is an encyclopedia that way.
For which we are grateful.
Absolutely. Also, Les, I don't think I've heard of Mrs. Ackroyd's band doing it, but Les did come up with, and I'm not going to sing it all because I don't know it all. Oh, diddly now have you sworn, dank, 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 da, da, sworn to kill John Barleycorn, dank, dank, dank,
Yeah, I have not got that on any of the Mrs. Ackroyd albums I have.
Yeah. But I reckon that would be a really good thing to do as a one of those FKO. They do that big band jam after everyone's I reckon that would go down really, really well in that session. Jesse, it's not me they're here to see. It's the invisible chorus guy that they never see.
That's it. That's who it is.
Him. Yeah.
Well, he's the one that adds all of that extra value, and then never gets any credit for it.
How you know you're getting your money's worth. Speaking of money's worth, oh God, no, don't drink my water.
It's a kitty.
Oh.
She came in a couple of nights ago, a couple of mornings ago actually, with feet that stank of petrol. She'd clearly got into someone's garage and knocked over a thing that shouldn't have been knocked over.
No.
And so we were enter with soapy water and towels. She's all right. No, leave it. Do not drink my water.
You've got another one.
He's moving near buttons. That's always the terrifying thing. Yeah, this is Sally Rackett, and rampaging around in the background is Ruben Ramzo, who might decide to show up. That's little Sally Rackett, named after a shanty, which I don't actually sing, and Ruben Ramzo, similarly named after a shanty, which I don't actually sing, but we thought
because if
good
you
names.
sang them, the cats would get really, really confused.
Absolutely, yes. So the Life is Better with Lots of Beer. Did you write that? Is that one of yours?
No. It's a friend of ours, or it passed away a few years ago, but Ernest Clark was really well known in the Filk community in the Midwest, writing some of the most fantastic things that I heard from the time I got into Filk. But he was also in the SCA and wrote a lot of new historical type songs. And so this is one of the ones we sort of filed the serial numbers off, and his wife Sarah has given us permission to sing it for him and spread it around. So feel free to spread that around, just so people know that Ernest is the.
I've got a recording of it now, so I can.
There you do.
Paul Bristow has popped in. Hi, Paul. How are you doing? Way earlier than usual for Paul. I will also point everyone at trouble with having non-mirrored displays. It's very hard to work out. So this is the donation link at Ko-fi. And if you drop a donation in the hat, what happens is at the end of the night, or probably tomorrow morning, I divide what went in by 2 and send half of it plus 10 quid to Bill and Brenda. I have a guaranteed fee now because there are people who subscribe.
Wow.
We didn't know this was a paid gig.
Wow. We would have prepared more.
No, just don't press that button. You just disappeared for a minute.
Well, see, there you go. The cat was giving its...
every cat's a critic.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, at the end of the night we split it and send you half of it by PayPal. I'm not quite sure who the most responsible person to send it to would be, but we'll have that discussion later. Really?
Yeah.
Right.
He actually balances checkbooks. I don't.
See, I have computers that do it for me. I just do it all the time. She does it once a year.
So your beer song has put me in mind of this one, so I'm going to sing this. First of all, I'm going to press the right button. And Rick Hewitt's here, by the way, who got a paws wet. These are cats that got a paws into the wet concrete a couple of days back. Oh, that doesn't sound like fun. Washing the paws was interesting. Sorry, I'm going to sing. This is, I first heard this song by Anne Briggs in an upstairs room in a pub at the end of a tour that hadn't gone terrifically well. It was pretty much the second to last song she sang. It absolutely just caught me by the heart and demanded that I learn it. And this is, so this is that. And it's sort of beer related. Come in, 'tis now September, the hunter's moon be gone, and from the wheaten stubble is heard the frequent dawn. The leaves are turning yellow and fading into brown, red and a ripe and bearded barley is hanging down his head, all among the barley. Who would not be blithe while the ripe and bearded barley is smiling on the side? The wheat is like a rich man, all sleek and well-to-do. The oats are like a pack of kids, all giggling and dancing too. The rye is like a miser, all sulky, lean and small. But the ripe and bearded barley is monarch of them all among the barley. Who would not be blithe while the ripe and bearded barley is smiling on the side? The spring is like a young thing that does not know their mind. The summer is a tyrant, they're the most ungracious kind, while autumn is the old friend who, as the leaves down fall, will bring the ripened barley to glad the heart of all among the barley. Who would not be blithe while the ripe and bearded barley is smiling on the side, all among the barley? Who would not be blithe while the ripe and bearded barley is smiling on the side?
Oh,
yeah.
We want to steal that one.
Isn't that amazing? Oh, I pressed the wrong button again.
Fantastic.
Isn't that
Is that what it's called again?
It's called the right. Hang on a minute. Cat is lying on buttons that really shouldn't be laying on.
We were wondering why you were cutting out.
No, that was. I don't think that was it. I think it's just the ripe and bearded barley. think, or I mean, if you go for communities now September, Rafe is shirking on his responsibilities about Joan Trillipy. It just says search for it on YouTube.
Oh, well.
Marion is reckoning that Responsible and Bill and Brenda just don't compute at all. Folk Nan sings Life is Better with Lots of Beer, Nan, or The Ripe and Beard of Barley. Both great songs. I would not blame you for singing either. She's exploring a cupboard now. It's all good.
They're stalking you, ain't they? Well, as long as we're doing drinky type things, there are tons and tons of songs about beer and whiskey, but not so many about my favorite. So I wrote this one, a long, long time ago. Oh, give me fair and apples, lovely pears and apples. Gather up your windfalls and crush 'em 'neath the press. Bring the golden liquid flow, the kegs that wait below. To bottle into cider, 'tis the queen of drink I have blessed. Oh, malted beverage, hopped and bitter, brews of stout and ale and such. You can keep your fermented barley, I don't like it very much. Tap a barrel of Old Rosie, that's the pint I love the best. I'll clink my drink with a wicked wink, and some cider for the rest. Oh, give me pear and apples, lovely pears and apples. Gather up your windfalls and crush 'em 'neath the press. Drain the golden liquid flow into the kegs that wait below. Bottle into cider, 'tis the queen of drink I'll bless. Oh, beer don't ever make me cozy, bring belch up from my chest. I want a drink that'll turn me pink, a pint of cider's my request. When I'm thirsty, cider quenches down my gullet, cider drenches. Take a healthy sip of a fruity pip, cider outshines all the rest. Oh, give me pear and apples, lovely pears and apples. Gather up your windfalls and crush 'em 'neath the press. Bring the golden liquid flow into the keg that waits below. The bottle in the cider, 'tis the queen of drink I bless. Oh, lumpy, scrumpy, plump and tasty, flowing on with vitamins. The cold and cool that a drink of full is a cure one should frequent. If you're feeling pumpkin pasty, don't drink chicken soup, my friends. Cider's tasty stuff when it's coming up as it is on the descent. Oh, give me pear and apple, lovely pears and apples. Gather up your windfalls and crush 'em 'neath the press. Drain the golden liquid flow into the keg that waits below. The bottle in the cider, 'tis the queen of drink I bless. Drain the golden liquid flow into the keg that waits below. To bottle into cider, 'tis the queen of drink I'll bless.
Yay! Fantastic. What a grand song. Have you ever made your own?
Beg pardon?
Have you ever made your own?
Made my own cider? I did when I was a kid. We had friends who had an apple orchard, and they had a big old press out in the middle of the orchard.
Oh, cool.
And we would have to go out and gather up all the apples and throw them in there. So, but I've not tried cider since we joined the SCA.
Yes, and you're talking about what? You're talking about what I think of as proper cider here, aren't you? Not because cider in America isn't necessarily boozy.
Not the fizzy stuff. Yeah. No.
Not the fizzy stuff. Not the things that they put in with the stuff that comes out of the nice cask. That the Welsh bartender, when the first time that we went to Wales, we were coming down through and we had taken the train from our bed and breakfast down to the next town, next village, so that we could go to the pub. So we go to the pub, and it's a proper Welsh pub with a line of ciders starting at one end, coming down until they have the hand pump of the one that just says cider. It doesn't say anything else but cider on it.
And up on the top, there was a chalkboard, and it said Scrumpy. And I said, what is Scrumpy? Can I have Scrumpy? And they said, how did you get here? Did you drive or did you come on the train? And we said, we came on the train. They said,
you may have one.
Only one.
You may have one.
And you were forever lost to it.
Absolutely.
Yes. Now, I make cider a lot. I don't press the apples or do the mix. I just get one of the local orchards. They do a cider without preservatives in it. So I just get the sweet cider and then treat it and ferment it.
And then
leave it to its own devices,
Yes.
Yeah. I do make cordials. I make really, really good cordials. Not what the English think of as cordials, because you put those in kiddie drinks.
Yeah.
These are fermented fruits distilled in vodka or gin or rum.
That's another example of American usage hanging on to an older usage, because that if you look at the root of, if you look where cordials started, they were alcoholic drinks flavored with fruits and stuff like that. Gin was a cordial. Once upon a time.
Juniper berries,
Yeah. See, fruit. It's one of your 5 a day.
That is. I think so. I think it counts.
I'm sure
if you drink 6 beers, you get your daily requirement of vitamin B12.
Wow. And how
that has to be real ale. It can't be packaged stuff because it has to be with the yeast in it. So
right.
It's a health food.
Yes. And how much of your LD50 of alcohol is that?
I refuse to look up the statement on it. It would only damage my wah.
And it depends on the beer anyway, doesn't it? So.
Now, we found there's a brewery, and it's actually out of the UK originally, called Brewdog.
Yeah.
That I think when Parliament was going to put in place...
Terrible employers.
Yeah, which sadly I've heard that, which makes me sad because they when there was going to be tax on the amount of alcohol in a beer to sort of limit beer to being less than 10%, which gets rid of all of your strong ales and things. So they came out with a non-alcoholic beer called Nanny State, and they thought this would be one thing that they would come out with and everybody would laugh about it. And it became so hugely popular because it was very good. It tasted like proper beer, but it was non-alcoholic. Yeah. And people jumped all over it because now they could go to the pub and they could drive. And they have this magnificent lineup of fantastic non-alcoholic beers that I have, now that my waistline is no longer as happy with me as it used to be, found out about. But yeah, I have to make the decision after some of the things that they've done locally. Yeah. It's hard.
There's a few people making interesting soft drinks. I mean, there's a kombucha is sort of getting trendy-ish in the UK, but there's a fair few places I've seen where, in amongst the non-alcoholic beers, you get what I can only describe as grown-up soft drinks that aren't too grottingly sweet. I've got a bit of bitter of them. And
I love alcoholic seltzers.
Yeah. Well, but we're talking soft drinks too, which is seltzers rather than sugar water.
Yeah. And they're delightful. And you get one that actually takes a while to drink and is delicious. Rafe Culpin, the rotter, has suggested that rather than drinking beer, you could just eat Marmite.
No. No.
The first time Zap's heard the cider song.
Because if we stopped drinking beer, you wouldn't have the Marmite anymore. So the people who love Marmite need to thank those of us who drink beer for making sure that they have a constant supply of Marmite.
This is a good point, well made, Bill.
Oh, my man, I love him so.
So how long have you two been Filkers then?
Well, I started in 83, and you started in 84. No, 84. The LA Worldcon was 84.
84, okay, 84. I stumbled into a Filk room at the Worldcon, and so, yeah, we're old. We've been around since dirt.
I've had that experience of stumbling into a Filk room. Yeah,
yep.
At a Worldcon.
At a Worldcon, yep, and saying, gosh, I want to do this.
I still maintain I am not a Filker. I am a folkie who hangs around with Filk people. That's
You're a folkie who contributes to the Filk circle. Yep, go ahead and keep telling yourself that.
Yeah.
Just whatever gets you through the day is fun.
So I would just like to pause and thank gorgeous Gary, who's just chucked 10 quid in the hat. Nitronomicon, a.k.a. Auntie Marion, who's chucked 15 quid in. Paul Bristow, Kip hang on. Oh, I got lost. An anonymous Kofi supporter, Lexi and Rick, thank you all very much. You're very kind for following that link and chucking someone in the hole in the hat. That's very kind.
So I guess if the standard rule is if you tip, you get to make a request. So somebody could make
Marion
a request out there.
Just requested Brenda sing tea, as it happens.
That's on the list.
We can do that.
Yeah. We could probably do that. If you'd like us to do that now, we can, and get it out of the way.
Rafe has also pointed out there was a Marmite shortage in lockdown because there was no brewing. So, yes, thank you, Bill. Thank you for your sterling service in drinking beer.
I endeavor to make up my entire year's quota when I come to the Filk Con.
Because you've got to do it over here, otherwise it doesn't count for Marmite, doesn't it?
Right, it doesn't.
They don't do, American, no.
Lost in my love of the hedgehog and badger, find the gap, look to left, the artful dodger, muddling roundabouts, lorries and prams, feeling at home but don't know where I am, with the long man and horses on cold chalky hillsides, cockles and curry and underground roller rides, Cadbury crunchies and Cadbury eggs, Cadbury chocolatey, anything drunk to the dregs. And there's tea that I mentioned to you, the fair sea. Yorkshire and rosewood chum, Darjeeling all day long, and the best thing for me, the glorious tea. There's skippers and bangers and trotters and neats, and oh to the cow and the coal and the sheep. Hideous carpeting patterns gone wild, powerful scrumpy Jack custard that smiles, cost a latte on every second street, vino in gelatin, pastel so sweet and neat, coal baths and kitchens and cars inches wide, neat signs of Sanders, all Kent bucket fried. And there's tea that I mentioned to you, the fair sea. Yorkshire and rosewood chum, Darjeeling all day long, and the best thing for me, the glorious tea. Castles and hill forts and barrows galore, ruins and history filled with great gore, gingerbread Tudors of plaster and slate, hedgerows and thatchers and wrought iron gates, dwellings and anoraks, hankies for red noses, row after row of rock wall decked with primroses, half pints and quarter pints, nipperkins too, ivy and yew trees, and learning how to use the loo. And there's tea that I mentioned to you, that there's tea. Yorkshire and rosewood chum, Darjeeling all day long, and the best thing for me, the glorious tea. Londoners, Lincolners, Yorkshiremen, Geordies, oh please don't talk quickly, I can't get the wordies. Dodgy and pasty and nappy and grub, tomato, potato, and nip round to pub. Finding relations who all were unknown before. A warm, cozy nation of charming folks I adore, polite and outspoken, garish and grand. I'm coming back soon to a right lovely band who fill me with tea, 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 tea. Did I mention to you that there's tea? Yorkshire and rosewood, Darjeeling all day long, and the best thing for me, the glorious tea, 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 tea. Did I mention to you that there's tea? Yorkshire and rosewood, Darjeeling all day long, cranberry wizards, Lady Grey, hot and strong, mango and passion fruit, sweet dreams and joy. Oh, I'll never drink Lipton's again, no, never, not I. Only tea, 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 tea.
Well, that's fine for some people. Searching for places named Horses and Wagon, Green Man and Beehive and George and the Dragon, muddling round about foxes and lambs, looking for drink but don't know where I am, with the Turk's head, the Duke's head, the Queen's head, the King's head, the coaches and horses just round the bend up ahead, white horse and black horse and red lion inn, and so many crowns, who knows where to begin. And there's beer, 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 beer. Did I mention to you that there's beer? Black Sheep and Harvey's town, Hook Norton all around. And the best thing that's here, the glorious beer. For dinner there's bangers and green mushy peas, cod place and haddock with chips and with peas, hot steak and kidney pie served with some peas, gammon steak, pineapple salad and peas. Can I get crispy duck only with curried peas? I like my veg, but I'm getting fed up with peas. How about aubergine, courgette, just peas? Finally pudding. I bet those spots are all peas. But there's beer, 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 beer. Did I mention to you that there's beer? Black Sheep and Harvey's town, Hook Norton all around. And the best thing that's here, the glorious beer. One thing I've noticed about folks at the bar, you buy them a drink and they know who you are. Drinking at home doesn't have the same feel. Ale from a can doesn't seem quite as real. Tied house or free house, variety's what you need. Never serve busy, just hand pump or gravity. Sad though it is when the last order sounds, I'm coming back soon, 'cause I think it's my round to have one more beer, 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 beer. Did I mention to you that there's beer? Black Sheep and Harvey's town, Hook Norton all around. And the best thing that's here, the glorious beer, 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 beer. Did I mention to you that there's beer? Black Sheep and Harvey's town, Hook Norton all day long. Harvey's and Hot Mac and Tom Burton's extra strong. Feastons and Burtonwood, Brains, Isle of Skye. I'll never drink Miller again. No, never, not I. Only beer, 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 beer.
Oh, I love those two songs. Carol, which came first?
Tea.
Tea.
He came first. That's what I got that for.
She wrote it at the convention and debuted it, and the next year I showed up with the rebuttal.
And there have been many other versions. There's a cheese one. There's, goodness.
Cheese is the one we remember because George did that one.
George wrote cheese. But I forgot the one.
Gary Ehrlich is pointing out that it's his birthday today, so if you want to buy him a tea or a beer at WorldCon next week, you're welcome to.
We will do that. We will see him there.
I can sing you birthday song, Gary.
Sing the birthday song.
Happy birthday, pal of mine. Oh, how the years have flown. A blink ago you were so young, but now you creak and groan. Remembering those good old days that will not come again might drive you to depression's edge. But lift your beer, my friend, and toast to future happiness. You're younger than you know. Ignore the sneers of teeny tots. In time they too will grow. There's yet a laugh or two in us. There's still a joke or three. And you can revel in the thought that you're still younger than me. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear pal of mine. Happy birthday to you.
Excellent.
That was the first one I ever wrote for him.
Vicky asked if your songs about beer and tea and such are considered filk, and the chat is basically, well, if it's sung in a filk circle, it's filk, which is pretty much
I think so.
I mean, those songs would fit in anywhere because they're just great songs, you know.
Right.
And some of them are. I wouldn't sing the tea or the beer songs because you know, I'm English. I wouldn't be celebrating the bits about the UK because so it's that Vicky has a brilliant song about getting caught out by a common language that would absolutely fit in any filk circle. So if you get a chance, it's about I can link you to it because it's.
And filk circles grew from people getting around singing folk sings back in the great folk scare of the 1960s.
Yeah.
Where we would all get together and they would sing.
Yeah.
Basically, what we're kind of singing today, and then people said, "Wow, we can make science fiction themes for this. We can make fantasy themes for this." And it became a little more targeted to the fandom.
Yeah.
But there's still that underlying enjoyment of a drink or two or 12 and all of the other things that go along with just getting together with friends and having a good time.
And no holds barred.
There
are no topics that don't get sung.
Absolutely. I tend to think of it as being a branch of folk music because it's music made for the same reasons. You know, it's not music made by permission. It's not music that's generally commercial. It's people getting together and singing and making music together, and you really cannot whack it. And it's a wonderful thing, but it does provide something approximating a living to a few of the sort of big name filkers. You know, it's delightful to see that.
Make a living up.
It pays for the hobby in my case.
Yeah, absolutely. It's delightful to see that someone like Suge is a professional musician and still turning up at filk circles and being fantastic. So it's nice to see that and in exactly the same way as the folk scene has. There's folk the thing, and there's folk the genre, and I think it's probably something like that with filk as well, really.
Filk has an element of risk to it that folk doesn't have, because you put something out in the filk world. And you're putting it out there with this tacit permission that other people are going to take it and chop its arms off and rearrange the body parts and put new themes to it and whatever. That's kind of a given. And sometimes the thing that you put out there ends up being the thing that everyone remembers rather than the original. You're taking your risks when you come into the filk world. You're going to put this out here with intelligent, crafty, creative, with people who have some musical sense, and it's going to do something in your music.
But that happens that's the folk process as well, really, isn't it? It's just in filk, the sort of filk. We don't have folk the verb like filkers have filk the verb. Where to filk something is to do that thing, to take a song from somewhere else and repurpose it, or to change the words or whatever, and that can be glorious or absolutely arse-numbingly cringy, and it's the great thing about filkers is you'll sit there and be glad that someone's having a go, even if it's not your particular thing. You know, it's just great that people are making music and having fun.
Yeah, because it's so open to anybody who can come in, and we don't give that, oh, well, I'm not going to listen to that. If you came in the circle and you participate, then your things are as good, because we all started there. I mean, everybody started there. So the fact that we can have people come in and have it be their first experience of doing, maybe just doing a song, period, and then doing something that they learned and something that they wrote.
Well, there's Gary Anderson, one of the fellows who was part of the Interfilk board for a number of years. When he came into the Filk world, he had one note, a very low note, just one. And it was a little challenging to listen to Gary. He eventually developed about 4 or 5 more notes. But over the course of the time that I knew him, I would listen to anything that Gary wanted to sing, because he sang really meaningful, good songs. The song was more important than the fact that he could only carry 5 tunes in that bucket.
Any time I've been going to Filk events, watching people develop as turning to better and better singers is always a delight. I think there are people who don't. People who've still got that small repertoire of songs and they sing them and they sing as well as they can. And that's great too. You know, if you used to go to, in fact, there was a chap who used to go to a folk club that I used to go to, and he had a repertoire of 3 songs. Sang them brilliantly. But it was literally, there was 3 or 4 songs and that's all he had, and we didn't mind. It was just lovely.
It's his party piece. That's an old tradition.
We went to the Singers Club in Dublin. We've gone to the Singers Club a number of times in Dublin, and the last 2 times we've been, we're separated by years and years.
Decades.
And so we went, and there was this one old fellow who had 3 songs that he sang. And 5 years later or 6 years later, we show up, and this is something they have every month, like the first Monday of the month they have it. And 5 or 6 years later, we show up, and that same old fella's there, and he sang the exact same 3 songs. And everybody loved it because, those are his 3 songs.
And
that's
sometimes
what
he sang them multiple times in the same session, because there's a bar downstairs. But you loved him, and everybody kind of gave that marvelous, loving, he's our guy sort of feeling about it. So
I think if everybody in a session was like that, it would get a bit tricky. But it's not, is it? There's always one, there isn't even always one, but it's always nice that we welcome everyone in that. I've also spotted a few new names. Brandy's Calais, K-A-L-L-E, so I'm guessing it's Calais, but I don't know. And someone called Mad Labs. Hello, everyone. Who's
Mad? Say it again. Mad what?
It's Mad Labs. It's quite hard to work out.
Mad Labs. From Sandanicon.
All right. Okay. Cool. Someone you know. Brilliant. Marion suggested my next song. Marion also reminds me of The Sword in the Stones, Hector's Christmas Party, where the old man sings a mumbled song about the woman who showed her ankle, and more. Absolutely. Anyway, Marion suggested that I should follow the beer song with this. This song is a lie, but it's too good not to sing. I was 18 when my dad first took me to a pub, and I've never ever seen him quite so mad. A pint of the usual, sir, the barman said, but he was asking me, not Dad. Well, if surfeited the appetite will sicken and so die, I'll not long have a boozer for a son. They say there's 27 pubs from here to Utzel Top, and tonight you'll have a pint in every one. We kicked off in the majestic little Alec kicked us out when Dad said he was scared what he might catch. We didn't mean to set on fire the White Swan and the Devonshire, but Dad was always careless with his match. As the odd fellas knew we'd been, we caused a riot in the Queen, and I was right till Dad said then we should have had a nip in the Blue Lion and the Griffin, so we'll have to go back down and start again. We should have had a nip in the Blue Lion and the Griffin, so we'll go back down and do the manch again. Well, we thought we'd make a start with a quiet game of darts before we'd gone a beer too far, but we were slinging arrows in the Albany Snug, and the board was in the public bar. There were arrows in the ceiling, there were arrows in the wall, there were arrows in a barmaid's tie, till a very ugly landlord with a very ugly club suggested we should both go forth and multiply. Broken glasses they were counting as we slipped out of the fountain, and the Talbot crowd was still in hot pursuit. In the fighting father all but killed the landlord of the Talbot when the city bugger criticised his suit, and we were walking on our knees by the time we reached the Fleece. And I was right till Dad said then, like it lad or lumpet, we have missed horse and trumpet, so we'll have to go back down and start again. We should have had a nip in the Blue Lion and the Griffin, like it lad or lumpet, we have missed horse and trumpet, so we'll go back down and do the manch again. Well, then we chanced to meet a young lady of the street, and Lord, but she'd some lovely wares to sell. Unfortunately, Dad was somewhat sick upon her dog. After 14 pints he wasn't feeling well. As he searched for his teeth he found the dog underneath, jumped back and knocked the poor woman flat. I've had pints, peas, pork pies and pickled eggs tonight, but I can't remember eating that. Well, the station and the junction then both showed us no compunction as they threw us in the street upon our ears. We had all sorts of hell in the Newing and the Nelson, and we had the Wickham landlord close to tears. As newts, we were pisters as we staggered into listers, and I was right as Dad said then, trouble in our courses, we forgot wagon and horses, so we'll have to go back down and start again. We should have had a nip in the Blue Lion and the Griffin, like it lad or lumpet, we have missed horse and trumpet, trouble in our courses, we forgot wagon and horses, so we'll go back down and do the manch again. Well then Dad pinched a bulldozer so we could ride in style. He flattened 3 police cars straight away. His driving wasn't polished, and in no time he demolished Hong Kong Harry's corner Chinese takeaway. And as Harry with his chopper chases up to Cello Street, his nearness to me necktie wasn't nice. As me breath began to steady, I said he were mad enough already. Did you have to order curried cat and rice? We had Webster's, we had Whitfield. We had Webster's, we had Whitbreads, we had Hammonds, we had Hayes, we had John Smith and Sam Smith too. We were right bloody gluttons on some OBJ by Duttons and Bass, both red and blue. We had Einkoop and Allsops and some Ramsons that was all slops, and I was right as Dad said then, we've missed out all the Bentleys, we've not had a drop of Tetley's. So we'll have to go back down and start again. We should have had a nip in the Blue Lion and the Griffin, like it lad or lumpet, we have missed horse and trumpet, trouble now of course we forgot wagon and horses, we've missed out all the Bentleys, we've not had a drop of Tetley's. So we'll go back down and do the manch again. Well, the police with a van cleared the Yorkshire divan, the landlord and his wife and kids as well. The foresters was quiet, there was not a sign of riot, for the customers was all inside the cell. There was specials running up the street and firemen running down. Troops and tanks were standing by at Odsal top. Some nuns who came to pray for peace just say it was over. Oh, the priest who got so drunk he tried to kiss a cop. Well, there was still a hue and cry in both the Woodman and Red Lion, and the Craven effer tried to bar the door. We thought we might get drunk if we had another in the trunk lift, so we thought we'd better have one to be sure. As we fell through the doors on all fours at Mary Shaw's, I was right till Dad said then, you can have a little rest, now you're halfway through the test. Then we'll have to go back down and start again. We should have had the nip in the Blue Lion and the Griffin, like it lad or lumpet, we have missed horse and trumpet, trouble now of course we forgot wagon and horses, we've missed out on the Bentleys, we've not had a drop of Tetley's, you can have a little rest, now you're halfway through the test. Then we'll go back down and do the manch again. Doing the manch by Keith Marston.
I still remember the first time I heard you sing that was at that Filk Con, at the one we were running, and I love that song. It's sort of so well known on the English folk scene that it's really rare that I get to sing it for someone who's never heard it before. But it's always glorious when I do, because it's that welter of jokes. And it's wonderful. It's an absolute delight to sing. It is a bit sort of stunt singing, show off stuff. But sometimes you've got to have it, you know. Got to have a patter song. I mean, that's just
absolutely. I've got quite a few actually, but yeah. James Walton says hello.
Hello.
Hey, JJ.
JJ.
And a blitz of applause from people. Thank you all very much. You're very kind. Are we going to get away from beer and tea and rock and roll?
I don't know. I had a song about a bartender.
We could do the song about the bartender, or we could do the song about the reprobate, and then we can move on to other things.
Sure.
Which one do you want to do? That one or this
bartender and then reprobate.
Bartender first, and then we'll do the song about the reprobate. Because then we can start moving into language songs, and that's probably fine.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. So this is a real Filk song.
This is a real Filk song. It's based on a Tanya Huff short story about people who work in space.
You want to say more about it?
No, it's about hardworking people in space.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4. I'm the new bartender on a downside dive on a Jovian gas mine where 1 in 55 works the hero path in a hot glam job. The other 54 are working class slobs like, and a lot of guys I know who run their lives as company drones. Pull their duty and do it well, for that stripes wind up in a hell where the whiskey has a certain price, and we run because the lonely and the smoky light. Am I bartender? I knew a guy once named Strawberry Joe. His mama was so homesick she named him without considering the consequences. What consequences? Hell, you name your boy Strawberry, there's gonna be some consequences. 25 years, tending bars and holes on meteors, moons, and Mars have taken me into outer space. Not a good big job, but the human race only needs so many heroes. The colony just cares about the zeros. That come after the dollar sign. Long as they're watching my bottom line rise up from the depths of red to black, the company keeps on sending me back. Textured protein patties for 12 years. You give your drinkers something to eat, they can drink more, and it affects them less. The more they drink, the less they feel it, the more they eat. Now your serious drinkers are getting fed, which makes them less shaky, which means fewer accidents out there on the pipe. Fewer accidents puts everybody in a better mood. Better mood, fewer nasty drunks, fewer fights, fewer things get broken, have to be replaced. Less drinking gets interrupted, the bar turns a profit, and the company 25 years of pulling this shit means I've seen a whole load of shit. Shinola and shit stupidity committed in the name of the company. I know more than one dirty baked kid stacked up as a smear on the owner's net. Contains more than good intent. Don't luck, chance, and what your mama's invent. I know it takes sweat, trust, and friends to keep on breathing in recycled oxygen. Am I bartender? I knew a guy once got sucked through a seal rupture, ended up in a low Mars orbit, and bouncing satellite signals off and down. I knew another guy named Logan tried to cross the tracks during a busy shipping offload. You get in front of those carriers and belts, but she flat. He lost a foot under one. Now he's got himself a prosthetic, but not just any old prosthetic, no. This one's got a full entertainment unit in it. Now Logan can play Who's Sorry Now through his toes. The guy I placed is dead from a sucking chest wound or a wrench to the head. I didn't do it, I don't care. Long as this hole goes for miles of fair, Western treated folks like food. Trying to make a foul stupid rule. At the end of the existence, where one mistake, one tiny little slip, and what's left of your toe is wearing a tag, and the company ships you home in a body bag. Where am I? Bartender, you can buy my beer, but you have to earn my respect. I knew a guy once thought he deserved respect he hadn't earned. I don't know what happened to him. I didn't know him long. I gave my patrons back their voice, a sense of pride, a sensible choice, and the benefit of my 25 years. Wiping these counters and drying their tears, I really don't need another damn story about another damn fool who winds up gory. So freaking out of earmarks for being a jerk. Now I'm using his brains, not doing his work, but I do this whole. It's sick me. I do my job for pay. The advice is free. Now tensions are down, morale is high, and only a very few people really know why. To turn his dashboard down, way down.
Yay! Is that one of yours?
That's one of mine. I heard Tanya Huff read the short story at some convention where we both were.
Tanya's a filker as well, isn't she?
She showed up at the Filks thing, and I sidled around the side to her, and I said, "You wouldn't happen to have a copy of that story I could borrow for just a little bit?" And she handed me her reading copy of it, and I took it away and kept it for a while and cranked some stuff out. And she liked it, so.
Yeah, the interstitials are actually almost straight out of the story.
Yeah, all the spoken words are straight out of the story.
Oh, cool. Really works then, yeah.
She and I have done it as a duet where she actually speaks the Abel Harris parts.
Oh, wow. I bet that's fantastic. Yeah.
That's been one of the neatest things they did at a number of World Cons. They had panels, and I want to say it first was in the UK, was maybe the first one that they
Scotland.
did.
It was
one of the Scottish World Cons, but it was that they got the authors in, and the Filker told the author which passages they wanted to read from one of their works, and then they would, after the reading was done, they got to sing the song that they had written that was based on.
Yeah.
So I got to sing Midnight at the Well for Jack Chalker. She sang Down Too Blue for Connie Willis.
Yeah.
And she graciously agreed not to sue me.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
it was within her rights to do so.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, sometimes those things are. It can be the stuff that's about a retelling or a response to an existing work can be a bit tricky as a listener if you don't know the existing work. You know, it's, when they're at their best, it's. I mean, that's great. I don't know the original work. That still works. But sometimes, that sounds like a really, really great way of doing that. Because often those songs that are If you know them, they're great, but if you don't know the story, they're a bit. What happened? Are often beautiful, well-crafted songs. So having that thing of the author reading the passage and then there you go. There's the response to it. What a really great way of being able to perform some of that stuff that you might not perform in a circle because you need to know too much, so to speak.
So I've had people tell me that they went out and found Connie Willis's Domesday Book and read it because they had heard In a Gown Too Blue, and they wanted the whole story. And I thought, yay! I've infected a whole new crew of people.
A couple of things. Vicky asked, what was the name of the short story again?
It was called I Knew a Guy Once.
By Tanya Huff.
It was, by Tanya Huff. And it was in an anthology called Space Ink. Nice. It would be very hard to track it down nowadays, but
Tanya's online. You never know. You ask her.
Yeah. I hope she reprints it because it's a really great story.
Met her at FKO. And Kate Barton, who's in the audience, ran that panel at Glasgow.
Yes,
so
there it is.
We are not worthy, Kate. We are not worthy. Yes. Thank you very much.
It was all your fault. Yay.
Judith Heyman. Gary wonders if thought it might have been Judith Heyman at the Toronto World Con 2003.
I think the Toronto one was the first one.
No, Scotland was the first one. Toronto was after. Yeah, okay. Scotland was the first one.
So I know the one we ran in Scotland.
Because Scotland was 1990 something.
I think we know. I know we did it at the second one, which is the one I ran music for. Which was that the second one or was that the first? Gosh, I've lost track. They're all together. The irony was I ran the UK Filk Con, the 18th UK Filk Con, because. That must have been in the 2000s because I went to 3 and it was 91. So, but I ran it because at the previous Glasgow, there was so much work that went into doing the WorldCon Filk that people were burned out and really were having trouble scraping somebody up to run the UK Con because, you're doing all this at once. So I said, we'll run the UK Filk Con so that the people who would normally run the UK WorldCon Filk track
don't end up
being able to focus on that. And then everybody had bouts of life. So I ended up also running the Glasgow WorldCon Filk track that year. So I'm like, yes, here we go.
Karmic candle.
This is why I never, ever, ever say yes and make it very plain. I'm not interested in being on a committee. I'm not a filker. I can't stick to that if I ever get involved in running a con.
Yeah, you'll convince yourself one of these days.
Well, this is actually the only Filk song I sing, and it's only a Filk song because it won a Pegasus. Yes, it's got to be a Filk song if it wins a Filk award, hasn't it? Really, I can't deny that.
There you go.
I'm a child of the library, it made me who I am. It taught me about freedom and the fellowship of man. A sealed story waits for you behind the library door. Don't say we can't afford it anymore. The library's where I've known some friends I've known my whole life through. The Walkers and the Blacketts and the Pevensies, so true. Simply Canine, Cannonball, Galadriel the Fair, the daughter of a pirate king and Paddington the bear. I'm a child of the library, it made me who I am. It taught me about freedom and the fellowship of man. A sealed story waits for you behind the library door. Don't say we can't afford it anymore. I've travelled south with Shackleton and all his gallant crew, and through the African interior that Mary Kingsley knew. I rode the trackless prairie where bison used to roam. I've flown around the universe not half an hour from home. I'm a child of the library, it made me who I am. It taught me about freedom and the fellowship of man. A sea of story waits for you behind the library door. Don't say we can't afford it anymore. And as I grew, the library fed my curiosity, all there for the asking and all of it for free. It's there I found stories I couldn't find at home. It's there I learned I was myself and not my father's clone. I'm a child of the library, it made me who I am. It taught me about freedom and the fellowship of man. A serious story waits for you behind the library door. Don't say we can't afford it anymore. So make friends with your library, don't let it fade away. Teach your kids the libraries where they go on Saturdays. Don't let the bastards tell you they will cost too much to save while they're shoveling your taxes down the hole that COVID made. I'm a child of the library, it made me who I am. It taught me about freedom and the fellowship of man. A serious story waits for you behind the library door. Don't say we can't afford it anymore. So make a stand for the library, stand up while you can. Stand up for your freedom, stand for your fellow man. Ignorance is never bliss, don't close the library door, for a library lost is lost forevermore. I'm a child of the library, it made me who I am. It taught me about freedom and the fellowship of man. A serious story waits for you behind the library door. Don't say we can't afford it anymore. I'm a child of the library, it made me who I am. It taught me about freedom and the fellowship of man. A serious story waits for you behind the library door. Don't say we can't afford it anymore. For a library lost is lost forevermore. Thank you. Yeah, it happens. That was me and Jill wrote that. Yeah.
So lovely.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to sing. I'm waiting for someone to... it's not a proper Filk song yet, because as far as I know, no one's filked it.
Just you wait.
I've been trying...
Just you wait. That you know of.
I mean, for all you know, Phil's already done 5 of them. He just hasn't put them out there yet.
Yeah, it's been 2 years. We haven't actually been able to get together to do this.
So. I've been trying to write Child of the Discworld, because...
I'm a child of the lavatory also works. So
yes, I'm a child of the lavatory. It made me who I am.
Yeah.
Got cigarettes and dodging my exams.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah.
I was made by a surgeon, assembled me from bits.
Child of the laboratory.
Laboratory. Yes.
Yeah, I can't wait that fit really, but.
See now you've got a couple of verses in, so it has been slightly built.
They say if you do it to yourself, it doesn't hurt as much.
I was going to say, yeah. Auto-filcation. Oh, God. I wish I hadn't given myself that image. That's just...
Yeah, sorry. You're too far away with the brain bleach, so I don't know that we can get it to you in time.
He's a filter.
Sing me something Irish. Let's have an Irish song, because you're also fine Irish musicians. Or tune, what else? Child of the Doctor is being suggested.
Child of the TARDIS. Yeah, oops, capo, too.
Thank
you. So
you.
You don't sound terrible.
I don't sound horrible.
Child of the Clone Lab might scan.
So
I'm a child of my grandson.
I've been into Irish language for some time now. And I've noticed that people translate things from Irish into English, and they will mangle what the song means in order to get it to rhyme and sound right in English. And so I didn't want that to happen with this particular song. I wanted to create a rhyme for it that would tell you what was going on and still rhyme and scan and do all those things that we like songs to do. There.
Yeah. Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
No.
Start over.
Train wreck.
Sorry. Fingers not working as well as they were before.
Just watch this.
We did this great in sound check.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I went to the fair, sold my cow. She was old for 5 pounds in silver and a guinea of gold. Drink up the silver if I spend what I've got. What matters the matter to those it should not. If I drink all my money if I spend what I've got. What matters the matter to those it should not.
Quilla quivi, quilla serano no, one dulce yega bucalapo, Mahino shallow, we cranny in a soul, Ocadation, Dantation, that one in Shindo, Mahino shallow, we cranny in a soul, Ocadation, Dantation, that one in Shindo.
If I wander picking berries and nuts in the woods, taking apples from branches or become a cowherd, or relax for an hour in the tree's shady spot, what matters the matter to those it should not. If I relax for an hour in a tree's shady spot, what matters the matter to those it should not.
Shakrigan, let's drink a sport. Quigin of his rosses, cockring your densor. Mabin, a sugar, his mabin, sugano. Occasion, dentation, not when in shindo. Mabin, a sugar, his mabin, sugano. Occasion, dentation, not when in shindo.
If I go for night visits, to dance, play sport, to fairs or to races, or things of that sort, if I'm with tipsy people or I drink like a sot, what matters the matter to those it should not. If I'm with tipsy people or I drink like a sot, what matters the matter to those it should not.
Go ilmi gan rang gan toy gan balach na stor. Achmat mish sasel bkhoni gro kadishin dantishin nak manin shindo. Achmat mish sasel bkhoni gro kadishin dantishin nak manin shindo.
Folks say that I've nothing, no land, no hope, no possessions, no clothing, no cattle to roam. If I'm happy living here in this hovel I've got, what matters the matter to those it should not. If I'm happy living here in this hovel I've got, what matters the matter to those it should not.
Yay! So that's your translation. That's fabulous. That really works, doesn't it? Yeah. And gets that sense of the real language as well. That's lovely. Yeah. What's it called? I mean, obviously, what matters can matter to those who have not in English.
It's called cadation duntation.
Yeah.
It's known as cadation duntation, and you hear it a lot of places.
Yeah.
It's a pretty popular Irish language song one of the more interesting versions I heard was actually from a Breton band called Trion, and they do a version that is like, well, that's rather interesting. It's Breton speakers speaking Irish with the Breton sort of French accent to it, because Breton is Welsh spoken by Frenchmen, and it's just an interesting sound.
Irish and Welsh and Gaelic and Breton are a fairly relatively close family, aren't they?
They're one branch apart.
Yeah.
Irish, Scots Gaelic, and Manx are one branch of the family, and Welsh, Breton, and Cornish are the other branch of the family. Yeah. And there's a lot of similar words, and you certainly can tell because there's very specific consonant changes. Yeah, and of course the grammar rules changed a little bit, but they've got common things in common. Verbs come first. You get to the subject sometime later in the sentence.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of similarities in the way they work.
I can understand most of the things that I hear on Outlander in Scottish Gaelic, but not everything. It doesn't all translate. It's kind of like the difference between how someone in New York speaks versus somebody in Alabama. Yeah. You have your regionalisms that just don't make sense. They don't translate.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and
they put their bodies backwards.
What's someone from the southeast trying to cope with someone with a proper Geordie accent or a Glaswegian accent, and it's also somewhat comical. Although there are linguists who will say, oh no, they're not really languages, they're more dialects, and it's like, yeah, but who knows which came first? RP is probably a dialect of some language that Scots and Geordie and all that sort of stuff came from anyway.
Irish came first, then came Scottish.
Welsh came first.
Everything comes from Ireland. Sorry, go on.
I said, people will think that they can do a decent Irish accent, and they always sound like fools because they don't understand that there are 32 different dialects of Irish. And they've taken a bit from the Lucky Charms man and a bit from the Quiet Man and a bit from whatever and mushed it all together. They're doing a proper Irish accent. No. You always sound foolish. Never do it. Never, ever do it.
Yeah. And it's a thing that you don't do, that I hear a lot when especially American singers having a go at Irish songs, and they affect an Irish accent, and it's...
I hear it all the time from people who go to the UK Filk Con from the US. Yes. They land on the shore and they hear these beautiful accents floating around, and all of a sudden they'll start approximating what they think is an English accent, and then I usually take my friends aside and say, don't do that.
In some cases, it's totally involuntary.
I mean,
we're all mimics. Yeah. We're all mocking. We all, part of culture is fitting in and joining all those things together. So you can usually tell when somebody's not trying to do it. You could tell, because they start flattening their vowels and start, changing the accent slightly, and it's fine.
I found my speech patterns changing when I've been to technical conferences in the States. After a while, I'm not quite sure. It doesn't end up sounding American, but it's the way you phrase things, the word choice, because you want to be understood, don't you? And my Jill's first husband, she reckoned she could tell who he was on the phone to because his accent would drift. Because he was he got an excellent ear for it, and his accent would drift to where the person he was talking to. And she, right, he's talking to so-and-so.
When we lived in Georgia and had to go get the car repaired or something, his accent would shift while he's talking to the car repair guy. He'd become more and more Southern.
Well, my father's family is from eastern Kentucky, and then southern Indiana has almost as strong an accent as they do in Kentucky. Yeah. So it's what I grew up hearing, and then I sort of lost it because my mother had never had that kind of accent. And when I went to school and all that kind of thing, it became much more central Indiana, very bland accent. Yeah. But when I get with my family, my accent changes, and I drop back into that. When I get with my cousin and her husband and folks like that.
Yeah.
I moved back to Doncaster.
So it was a survival mechanism for me. Yeah. Because we moved so many places, automatically you try and grab whatever the regional accent is and hold on to it to make yourself blend in.
Because kids are bastards, aren't they? Yep, they'll find any form of difference and they will use it.
Not just kids. I was in France. I was in Grenoble in a fabric store trying to buy lace for my curtains, and I found a beautiful pattern, and I took my fabric to the table and I spread it out, and they said, and how much do you want, madame? And I said, a couple of yards. And it was, yards? What's yard?
Well, yeah, I mean,
meter. Give me 2 meters.
Yeah. I know yards. And so they made fun of me, too, and we had a little laugh.
Yeah, I've But, you know, it's as long as you're good-humoured about it, Marion say my aunt was an inspector in a stocking factory in North Nottinghamshire, and she could tell which town people were from by their accents. Now it's said that in Sheffield you can tell what school someone went to if you're tuned into it. I'm not tuned into a Sheffield accent. I've got a South Yorkshire accent, especially when I'm on the market and talking to people from South Yorkshire. As I move back to Doncaster, it's thickened up.
Well, and you guys have ties that tell you what school you went to.
Protective coloration. Well, only if we went to properly posh schools.
Yes.
And there aren't very many properly posh schools in the environs of Sheffield. Vicky reckons that she starts talking with a southern accent within minutes of talking to US Southerners, despite being from Detroit. And Ian, her husband, says he can tell if she's talking to a US person on the phone. I'm sure. It's just, we adapt, don't we? We're mimics. We can't help it. It's how we.
The movers and shakers in our Irish community here in Indiana, and you would be surprised to know how big the Irish community is here in Indiana. He pulled me over at an Irish festival because he had this guy who wanted to learn how to speak Irish, and he said, "Brenda, come over here. Tell me what dialect of Irish do you speak?" And I said, "Indiana." I'm never going to try and convince anybody that I speak with an authentic Irish accent.
Yeah, I mean, the Irish diaspora is no small thing, really, is it? It's I did hear a lovely story from, I think he's from Illinois, a young lad who was a Sean-Most dancer at a camp I went to at Swallow Gathering. And he was... He'd learned Irish and was a beautiful Sean-Most singer as well. And he'd sort of been sent over to, he'd gone over to England and then to Ireland to sort of soak in the culture. And he'd done it by flying into England and then taking the ferry over. So he's on the ferry and he's sat out on the deck and he's in a nice quiet place and he starts singing to himself. And suddenly, this Irish head pops up from behind the bench going, "Where'd you get that song from?" And he said, "I got it from, I don't remember the name, Bridie O'Toole in Chicago." "Oh, right," he says. "Well, tell her I said hello." And was then all right that he was allowed to sing that song because it was I just love that. I mean, the musical community is surprisingly small, isn't it? Really, we kind of look out for each other.
One of the more interesting albums that I produced was a fellow that I met in an Irish pub in Grenoble.
Yeah.
And he was playing in a session there. And
he was English, wasn't he?
Well, I'll get to that. So we're in an Irish pub in Grenoble, and this guy's playing in the section, and he's playing some pipes, and he's playing whistles, and he's singing.
Yeah.
And singing some amazing stuff. So I got to talking to him, and he said, "Oh yeah, I've got this album that I've got produced, or I've got put together, but I haven't distributed yet." I said, "Well, let me listen to it. Let me see what it is." And I fell in love with it. And this guy had. Let's see, he was from the northeast of England, so he wasn't quite as far north as being Geordie, but then ended up going to a Christian Brothers school and going over to Ireland to school, and then for work he was in Spain and had gone to start playing street busking in Geneva, and then had come down from Geneva to Grenoble, where he was working in Grenoble and singing and playing music. So you want to talk about all these influences. And he had this album where half of the songs on it, he said, "Well, I learned this song from this guy on the street in Paris or in Dublin. I learned this one." So I spent half of what I did was tracking down where these songs came from. And I still had 3 of them that I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea, but we left them on the album, and I just put a thing on that says, "If you know who these came from, let me know. I'll get in touch with them, and we'll do the right thing." But at this point, I have searched 3 nations' worth of copyright databases and cannot find these songs. So.
Should have gone to mainly Norfolk.
Yeah.
Mainly Norfolk's great. I'd just like to say thank you to, I think, Vicky Gilman has dropped some money in the hat, and also I think Simon Fairburn. So thank you very much. Very kind. You went blank for a minute because I tried to resync your video because you were spectacularly. Your audio was yeah. But I think we might be a bit better.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. It's probably. We've got good internet, but the wireless, there's so much interference around that I think the wireless has to retry.
I mean, it retrains and eventually catches up with itself, but I thought I'd give it a kick. And sadly, you blacked out for a bit longer than I planned. But they all heard you, so that's good.
That's all that matters.
Yay.
Yeah.
If we wanted people to look at us, we'd be younger.
Absolutely.
Do you want to do this one?
It's his turn.
Well, yeah, it's your turn if you want to do one, and then there's that one we wanted to.
I was going to do one. Yeah. A philologist once told my parents where they were from within a couple of blocks based on their accent, which by that time sounded pretty Midwestern. This is Vicky. Wow, the full on My Fair Lady experience. I'd like the defiance in that song. So I'm gonna have a crack at this one, which is kind of defiant. Just so long as I remember it. I am a brisk lad and my fortune's bad. Indeed I am wondrous poor, but I do intend me young life for to mend. I shall build an house down on the moor, me brave boys. Shall build an house down on the moor. Me farmer do keep fat oxen and sheep, and a neat little nag on the downs. And in the middle of the night, when the moon's shining bright, there's a number of jobs to be done, me brave boys. There's a number of jobs to be done, and it's I'll roam around in some other man's ground. I shall take a fat yow from the flock, and with the aid of me knife I will shorten his life, and I'll carry it home on me back, me brave boys. I shall carry it home on me back, and then me children shall pull the wool from the bone, and I'll carve it up to the bone. And when the constable do come, I'll stand there with me gun, and I'll swear all I have is me own, me brave boys. I shall swear all I have is me own. Sheep stealer.
Yes. Don't sing that around Chantal.
Learned from the singing of Mike Watterson. Well, I learned from a record of Mike Watterson, which is a record that everybody should have because it's fabulous.
Again, giggling. So, 5 years ago-ish, we joined the SCA because they had their 50th anniversary of the society in our backyard, essentially, just a couple miles down the road, and we both jumped in with both feet into the deep end of the pool and started doing the breaststroke. Within the SCA, they have a competition in our kingdom every 6 months to determine who the new prince and princess will be, and then 6 months after that, they become the next king and queen of our area. And they reign for 6 months, and then they're replaced by their current prince and princess. And those women who were queen are called the Roses. And I wrote a song for the Roses because I remembered being in England and driving down country roads and seeing rock walls with primroses stuffed in the chinks and seeing they would grow no matter where you planted them. Yes, the roses in the rocks, we grow where we will. And though we smell sweet and look soft, we are powerful still. Handle us carefully, don't clutch too tight. For we have our thorns, and our thorns have a bite. Pay us in blood if you offer us light. We the roses in the rocks. We're now untended shrubs growing wild by the side of the lake. Prune us right down to the nub, yet our briars remain. Covered by wintry blankets of snow, deep in the earth we continue to grow, awaiting our springtime renewal so slow. We the roses in the rocks. Once we were kept in a garden behind a stone wall, tended but tested and hardened, except deadly small. Now we are bramble, our tendrils are long. Now we are thicket, our purpose is strong. Now we grace land with our scent and our song. We the roses in the rocks, roses in the rocks.
Yay! Fine song.
Thank you.
Fine song. Always nice when you get a song that sort of fits a purpose as well, isn't it? When you write it for a use and it works. Yeah, lovely. Now then, I'm just looking at the time, and it's nearly 10
we've only got a couple minutes left.
Well, I mean, it's the great thing about this is there's no program. It can go as long as we like. But I've run out of water and all sorts of stuff.
Yep, and we're
probably not going to go a long time.
Our time, so
we have to go attend our other church. We have to go see a basketball game.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay,
Indiana.
Okay, means very little to me. I gather it's a sports ball thing. It could be fine.
It is.
Sports ball, definitely sports ball.
Actually, I can't be rude about sports ball. I quite enjoy rugby. I rather enjoy rugby, so I can't. I can't pretend to be completely ignorant of all sports.
Yeah. There are surprising number of people who have glommed onto a specific sport.
Yeah.
It's just they don't get the big, huge, popular American football Super Bowl.
The whole all-consuming cultural thing is a thing I don't really get. Anyway, before we start thinking about last songs, I feel I should, first of all, I'm going to quickly run through everyone who has very kindly chucked money in their hat. Thank you very much to Simon, to Vicky Fielden, to Gorgeous Gary, to Nitronomicon, to Paul B, and to Lexi and Rick, and an anonymous supporter who Zap is raising a hand. I'm not quite sure why.
Zap, because she probably threw money in the jar.
Right. Is that one of the anonymous, right? Or it's entirely possible that the thing that handles this is lagging. It has done before, and it's very embarrassing. I run through a list of people, and it's like, hang on a minute, I chucked money in the hat, and it's just anyway. So thank you all very much for your kind support. Thank you to everyone who subscribed as well. That's very kind. Next week was going to be, I was going to have a couple of mates round, and we were going to set up in the living room rather than in my dining room. And we were going to sing carols and eat mince pies and drink mulled cider, mulled apple juice and cider for the people who liked it. And when Jill got back from dialysis, she was going to join us and she was going to be singing carols with us and all that kind of stuff. But Omicron has fucked with that. So next week is not going to be an in-person thing. We are back to shielding, so I don't quite know what's happening. I think what I'm going to do is I'm not going to do a solo one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do we're going to have a Twitch party. We're going to have a Zoom party. I'm going to see if I can get people who've been guests before, if they feel like popping up on the Zoom as well. That would be great. And invite regular chat members into the Zoom, and we'll have a Zoom thing. It will probably be shockingly bad for broadcasting on YouTube. I might not even bother, but I probably will, and just ping the link into the YouTube. And we'll have a chat and we'll have a talk to each other, and we'll do all that sort of stuff. Vicky will remind me to send email to the person who I am going to send email to, but whose name has completely been forgotten. I've got the email address. Vicky sent it to me. I planned to do it. It's just suddenly Christmas was telescoping up on me. So. But yeah, we'll do some of that. I think it would be nice to have people in and have a bit of a chat, and then probably I'm going to take the week between Christmas and New Year off. Certainly not going to be here on Christmas Eve, and start up again at some point in the New Year, probably quite early in the New Year, with a guest, but I don't know who the guest is yet. So that's the current state of the plans of the affairs for what's going to happen next week. Have you got anything coming up online or anything that people?
Nothing online. Obviously, the World Science Fiction Convention is next week for people in the States who are going. Right. We've got a concert there. We're playing backup band for Shauna McGuire for her concert.
Cool.
So that should be a lot of fun. We still have the Irish music album that was supposed to come out 5 years ago is still not finished, so sooner or later we'll get that done. But as we do individual tracks, we do tend to put them up on Bandcamp, so keep an eye on Bandcamp, sign up as a fan on Bandcamp, and you'll get an email when we put something up, and
brilliant.
Love to see you there.
Yeah, it's the case of the cobbler's kid's got no shoes.
Is Wilcon being hybrid? Are there streams from it this year?
It is hybrid. There are 3 or 4 panel areas that are being done both virtual and in person. There's also a full track of virtual stuff. It just sort of depends on which item is which.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're doing the concerts.
Well, no, they're doing the concert because they asked us for lyrics for Shauna's concert. So go hear Dead Sexy play with Shauna.
Oh yeah. Shauna's amazing. Yeah, met her at Filk Con before she got properly famous with well, she didn't get properly famous with Lady Mondegreen, but they all came over to a UK Filk Con.
Yes, when they came to the UK,
Spent many happy hours at that Filk Con, sat in the stairwell of the hotel, just singing trad songs round and round with Lady Mondegreen. It was great. It was a lovely weekend in a terrible hotel, a truly terrible hotel, but it had a decent stairwell, terrible food.
Was that the second time we were back at Basingstoke, or?
Yeah,
DejaNovaCon,
I think it was the one that went on.
Yep, that was the one.
It was a hotel that looked like a prison.
It was bad,
and it drove Gwen and just drove them out of running conventions because it was so horrible. Because the hotel was so horrible, they did the best they could under bad circumstances. The hotel just treated them terribly.
The hotel staff were horrible. Generally, it's quite good. Marion is accepting blame, and Vicky has reminded me. It's Kate Green. I knew it was Kate. Someone. I promise I will get in touch, Marion and Vicky. I really promise. I'm being very slack. It was the only con that Marion had helped to run. Oh dear. What a horrible experience for you, Marion. Now then, who sang last? You sang last.
We did.
Yeah. So I suppose I ought to sing something, and then you can sing something, and then we'll. Do you have a great finishing song, or are you?
We've got one we can do.
Brilliant.
Do that.
Brilliant. That'd be great. So I'm going to sing a good night song as well, and then Bill and Brenda are going to sing a good night song as well. And with any luck, we won't try and sing the same one. Out of work, signing on, and they made me treasurer, says Marion. I lived in dread of being invested. Oh my God! Oh, that doesn't sound like fun. Anyway, let's sing a song. This is by Dave Webber, so you probably know what it is. Those of you who are regulars, it's the parting song. Soon tomorrow sun will rise and dawn will paint the sky. There's time for just one parting song before we say goodbye. So sing together one and all and raise a glass of wine. Here's hoping we shall meet again along the road of time. We've shared our stories, yours and mine. We've shared our hopes and fears. In memories of days gone by, we've all thrown back the years. So sing together one and all, and raise a glass of wine. Here's hoping we shall meet again along the road of time. The ever turning fateful wheel must cause our ways to part, and bring in untold mysteries a northern day will start. So sing together one and all, and raise a glass of wine. Here's hoping we shall meet again along the road of time. For from endings come beginnings, from the old springs the new. With hope for tomorrow, we'll see our parting through, and sing together one and all, and raise a glass of wine. Here's hoping we shall meet again along the road of time. Yes, sing together one and all, and raise a glass of wine. Here's hoping we shall meet again along the road of time. There you go, Dave Webber's parting song.
That's very nice. Okay. This is a song called May I Suggest by a singer-songwriter named Susan Werner. May I suggest to you, may I suggest this is the best part of your life. May I suggest this time is blessed for you. This time is blessed and shining almost blinding bright. Just turn your head and you will see the 1,000 reasons that were just beyond your sight. The reason why I suggest to you, why I suggest this is the best part of your life. There is a world that's been addressed to you, intended only for your eyes. A secret world, a treasure chest to you, a private scenes and brilliant dreams that mesmerize. A tender lover's smile, a tiny baby's hands, the million stars that fill the turning sky at night. Oh, I suggest, yes, I suggest to you, yes, I suggest this is the best part of your life. There is a hope that's been expressed in you, the hope of 7 generations, maybe more. And this is the faith that they invest in you. It's that you'll do one better than was done before. Inside you know, inside you understand, inside you know what's yours are finally said right. And I suggest to you, and I suggest this is the best part of your life. This is a song, comes from the west to you, comes from the west, comes from the slowly setting sun. This is a song with a request of you to see how very short the endless days will run. And when they're gone, and when the dark descends, we give anything for one more hour of light. May I suggest May I suggest to you, may I suggest this is the best part of your life. May I suggest to you, may I suggest this is the best part of your life.
Oh, what a lovely song, beautifully sung. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Vicky commented that she loves Susan Werner, so
yeah.
Great song, really well sung. Thank you so much for agreeing to be my guests. And,
thank you for having us. We've had a blast.
And let's hope you manage to make it over in February, and we get to do this in real life.
We can actually sing harmony with you.
Yeah. That would be great. It will be really nice as well if we can try and find a venue and do it, and maybe see if we can get an audience. That would be great.
Well, it sounds like there's going to be pop-ups all over the country, so we'll figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
We haven't got a clue. We've not done this before.
Applause. What a gorgeous song. New One to Me, very nice, says Phenomenon. Chastity is a gorgeous song. Gorgeous, says Vicky. Thank you all so much. It's been an absolute pleasure singing for you. I will just draw your attention once again to the Ko-fi link. If you feel that you've enjoyed this and would like to chuck some money in the hat, well, we're not going to stop you.
No.
And the half of what goes in goes to Bill and Brenda. A small percentage goes to PayPal, and then whatever's left goes to me. So Bill and Brenda don't have to worry about the PayPal fees. Just it's straight down the middle. So that's the plan. And we'll see you next week with whatever. Don't know what the format's going to be. Don't know who's going to be guesting. If I'm going to have guests. But I think we're going to do a Zoom chat really, rather than a stream as such. And you all will be almost cordially welcome. So that's the plan. Thank you, Rick. Thanks all from Lexi and Rick. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm gonna fade to black and stop the stream now because otherwise I'll just keep wibbling on until I have it. Bye. Wavy, fade to